Staff Sergeant John Mercer stood at the back of the conference room aboard the USS Horizon, his posture perfect and his face carefully blank. This was his 17th diplomatic meeting in 3 days. The muscles in his lower back ached from standing at attention for so long, but he didn't let it show. Marines didn't complain. Marines endured. The room was filled with beings from across the galaxy. Some had too many limbs. Others had skin that shimmered with colors no human eye had evolved to properly process. A few didn't seem to have bodies at all, just floating clouds of light or gas contained in special environmental suits. Ambassador Elizabeth Donovan was speaking again, her voice patient despite the clear frustration in her eyes. I understand your concerns, High Minister Zaktal, but Earth's governmental systems have proven stable for centuries despite their differences from your own. The insectoid being clicked its mandibles together, and what Mercer had learned was a gesture of dismissal. The translator device on the table converted the series of clicks and whistles into flat, emotionless English. Your species lacks even the most basic uniformity, Zaktal said. Different nations with different laws, multiple languages, varied military structures. The Galactic Confederation requires order, predictability. Your chaotic approach to civilization makes you unsuitable for membership. Mercer watched the 6 other alien representatives nod or make their species equivalent gestures of agreement. Only the crystalline Tellurian delegate remained motionless, its faceted body reflecting light across the chamber. This was the problem they'd faced since arriving at Proxima Station 3 weeks ago. Humanity was too unpredictable for the Confederation's taste, too diverse, too adaptable. The very traits humans prided themselves on were being held against them. Captain Alan Rivera, commander of the USS Horizon, leaned forward in his chair. With respect, High Minister, humanity's adaptability is precisely what allowed us to develop faster-than-light travel independently. We believe this quality would benefit the Confederation, not harm it. A charming perspective, said another. Alien, this one a floating purple jellyfish-like creature. But the Confederation has maintained peace for 3,000 years by following established protocols. Our rules are not arbitrary. They are the foundation of our success. Mercer fought the urge to rub his temples. The aliens didn't get it. They had created a system where rules were sacred, never to be questioned. But humans knew better. Rules existed to serve a purpose. When they failed to serve that purpose, you adapted them. The meeting dragged on for another hour before finally breaking for a recess. As the aliens filed out, Ambassador Donovan approached Mercer. Thoughts, Sergeant? She asked quietly. Mercer hesitated. He was just a Marine, not a diplomat. But Donovan had asked for his input repeatedly over the past weeks, valuing his straightforward perspective. They're afraid of us, he said finally. Not because we're threatening, but because we're unpredictable. They can't put us in a neat box. Donovan nodded. That's my read too. They've had peace for so long they've forgotten that sometimes you need to adapt to survive. Lieutenant Samantha Wright, the ship's chief engineer, joined them. It's worse than that. I've been studying their emergency protocols. They're so rigid they've become dangerous. If anything unexpected happened, their response would be completely inadequate. Captain Rivera overheard and frowned. Let's hope we don't have to find out. We need this alliance. Earth can't stand alone against whatever else is out there. Mercer nodded but said nothing. 20 years in the Marines had taught him that hope wasn't a strategy. You prepared for the worst while working toward the best. The next day brought more frustrating meetings. The Vraxians, led by High Minister Zaktal, were particularly dismissive. Mercer studied them carefully. 6 limbs, exoskeleton, compound, eyes that missed nothing. They reminded him of the ants he'd watched as a boy in Georgia, perfectly organized, utterly efficient, and completely inflexible. While the diplomats argued, Mercer reviewed the station's security protocols on his tablet. The more he read, the more concerned he became. Lieutenant Wright was right. The Confederation's emergency procedures were dangerously outdated, focused more on maintaining order than saving lives. On the 5th day, Mercer was escorting Ambassador Donovan to yet another meeting when alarms began blaring throughout the station. The sound was odd, more musical than the harsh klaxons humans used, but the urgency was unmistakable. "What's happening?" Donovan asked as aliens of various species began rushing through the corridors. Mercer tapped his communication device. "Mercer, to Bridge, what's the situation?" Captain Rivera's voice came through, tense but controlled. "A rogue asteroid has been detected on collision course with the station. The Confederation is implementing evacuation procedures, but it's chaos out there. Their protocols aren't designed for this scenario." Mercer made a quick decision. "Ambassador, I need to get you back to the ship." "No," Donovan said firmly. "This is exactly when the Confederation needs to see what humans can offer. Take me to their command center." Mercer wanted to argue but recognized the strategic thinking behind her request. This crisis might be their best chance to demonstrate human value to the Confederation. They made their way through increasingly panicked crowds. The station's design was elegant but impractical for emergency evacuation. Bottlenecks were forming at key junctions. Some species were following one protocol while others followed contradictory procedures. The beautiful order of the Confederation was collapsing under pressure. When they reached the command center, the scene was one of controlled chaos. Alien technicians worked at various stations while representatives argued among themselves. The Vraxian High Minister stood at the center, issuing orders that were becoming increasingly desperate. "The protocols are clear," Zucatal was saying. "We must maintain order during evacuation by proceeding according to Section 47 of the Emergency Response Doctrine." A tall, willowy alien with pale blue skin objected. "Section 47 was written for gradual evacuation. This asteroid will impact in less than 2 hours." Mercer surveyed the room and saw the fatal flaw in their approach. The Confederation species had lost sight of the purpose behind their rules. They were following procedures even as those procedures were failing them. Ambassador Donovan stepped forward. "High Minister, perhaps we can offer assistance." Zictal's compound eyes swiveled toward her. "This is an internal Confederation matter." "With respect," Donovan persisted, "Earth's military forces specialize in adapting to unexpected threats. Staff Sergeant Mercer has extensive experience in emergency evacuations." All eyes turned to Mercer. He straightened his already perfect posture and made a decision. Career diplomats might worry about speaking out of turn. Marines worried about getting the job done. "Your evacuation plan won't work," he said simply. "Your rules were made for a different situation. You need to adapt or people will die." The command center fell silent. Then the Vraxian High Minister's mandibles clicked in what the translator identified as outrage. "How dare a mere security officer address this council? You humans mock our rules even now." Mercer met the alien's compound gaze without flinching. "I don't mock your rules. I respect their purpose. But right now, they're not serving that purpose." The silence in the command center stretched uncomfortably long. Mercer could feel the stares of every alien in the room. He didn't back down. Lives were at stake, and he hadn't spent 20 years as a Marine to stand quietly while people died because of stubborn adherence to outdated rules. Captain Rivera stepped forward to stand beside him. "High Minister, if I may, Sergeant Mercer is one of our finest Marines. His assessment deserves consideration." The crystalline Tellurian moved forward, light refracting through its body. "I suggest we hear the humans' proposal. Our sensors confirm the asteroid will impact in 112 minutes. Our current evacuation progress is insufficient." High Minister Zictal's mandibles clicked rapidly, but he finally gave a jerky nod. "Proceed, human. But know that interference with Confederation protocols is strictly forbidden." Mercer didn't waste time arguing. He stepped to the central display and quickly studied the station schematic. Proxima Station was enormous, housing over 40,000 beings, from 17 species. The evacuation routes were color-coded, each species following separate paths to their designated ships. "Your first problem is here," Mercer said, pointing to several major intersections. "You've got 3 species trying to use the same corridors, but in different directions. They're creating gridlock." He tapped the display, highlighting new routes. "Redirect the Vraxians through the maintenance tunnels on level 7. Move the Tellurians to the eastern corridors. Keep the Meridon gas forms in the central chambers but elevate their evacuation priority. Lieutenant Wright had entered the command center and now joined him at the display. The station's power distribution is also problematic, she said. They're maintaining life support in sectors that are already evacuated while critical junctions are running on backup power. A small, rodent-like alien with 6 eyes chittered angrily. Power distribution follows Protocol 89C. It cannot be altered during crisis events. Mercer met the alien's gaze. Which is more important, following Protocol 89C or saving lives? The alien fell silent. Captain Rivera took charge. Lieutenant, Wright, work with their engineers to optimize power distribution. Sergeant Mercer, coordinate with security to implement your evacuation changes. The Vraxian High Minister seemed ready to object, but the Tellurian spoke first. We will comply. The human's logic is sound. What followed was controlled chaos. Mercer found himself working with a team of alien security officers, none of whom were happy about taking orders from a human. But as the minutes ticked by and the evacuation began moving more smoothly, their resistance faded. Mercer dispatched his own Marines to key locations. Corporal Keith Lawson went to the residential sectors to help families with children. Private Olivia West headed to the medical bay to assist with moving patients. Each Marine adapted to their situation, making quick decisions that saved precious time. In the maintenance tunnels, Mercer encountered a group of young Vraxians separated from their guardians. The insectoid juveniles clicked in distress, their translator devices malfunctioning. Mercer knelt down, making himself less threatening. He didn't need a translator to recognize fear. Slowly, he offered his hand, palm up. The smallest Vraxian approached cautiously, touching Mercer's hand with one delicate appendage. "It's okay," Mercer said softly. "I'll get you to safety." He guided them through the tunnels, eventually reuniting them with adult Vraxians who accepted the juveniles with clicking sounds that needed no translation. One adult turned to Mercer, mandibles moving in what might have been gratitude. 60 minutes before impact, Mercer returned to the command center. The situation had improved dramatically. Lieutenant Wright had optimized the station's power grid, redirecting energy to critical systems. The evacuation was proceeding more efficiently now, but they were still behind schedule. "We need more time," Ambassador Donovan said as Mercer joined her. "At current rates, we'll still have over 5,000 people on station when that asteroid hits." Captain Rivera nodded grimly. "We need to slow it down somehow." Mercer studied the tactical display showing the asteroid's approach. An idea formed. "The station's defense systems include magnetic grapples for capturing space debris, correct?" The Tellurian moved closer. "Correct, but they are not designed to handle an object of this mass." "Not alone," Mercer agreed. "But what if we use them along with the USS Horizon's tractor beams? Not to stop the asteroid, but to alter its course just enough to buy us more time." The aliens looked at each other uncertainly. This wasn't in any protocol. Wright checked the calculations on her tablet. "It could work, Captain. If we redirect power from non-essential systems on both the station and our ship, we might be able to deflect it enough to buy another 30 minutes. High Minister Zakatal clicked his mandibles. "This is highly irregular. The defense systems are not meant to be used in this manner." Mercer couldn't contain his frustration any longer. "Minister, with all due respect, you're missing the point. Rules exist to protect people. When they fail to do that, you adapt. That's not chaos. That's survival." The Tellurian turned to face Zakatal. "The human is correct. We have become rigid. Our rules have become more important than their purpose." After a tense moment, Zakatal relented. "Implement the human's plan." The next 20 minutes were intensely focused work. Wright coordinated with engineers on both the station and the Horizon to reconfigure the defense systems. Mercer worked with tactical officers to calculate the precise moment to activate the combined systems. When everything was ready, Captain Rivera gave the order. "Engage on my mark. 3, 2, 1. Mark." The entire station shuddered as massive, electromagnetic grapples locked onto the asteroid. Simultaneously, the USS Horizon's tractor beams engaged. their blue energy visibly straining against the massive rock. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then slowly, the asteroid's trajectory began to shift. Cheers erupted from the human crew members. The aliens remained quiet, but Mercer noticed their postures relaxing slightly. Trajectory altered, announced the Tellurian. Impact delayed by 37 minutes. That should be enough, Donovan said. If we maintain our current evacuation rate, everyone will make it off the station. Mercer nodded, but he wasn't celebrating yet. In his experience, no plan survived contact with the enemy. And right now, that enemy was time itself. As if reading his thoughts, Wright approached with a grim expression. We have a new problem. The power strain has damaged the station's structural integrity in Section 12. There are still people trapped there, and the automated systems are failing. Mercer checked the schematic. Section 12 housed a nursery for juvenile Meridon gas forms. Their environmental needs were highly specific, and they couldn't be moved through standard corridors. Without hesitation, Mercer headed for the door. I'll handle it. High Minister Zekatal's voice stopped him. Why would you risk yourself for Meridon juveniles? They are not your species. Mercer turned back, meeting the alien's compound eyes. Because that's what Marines do. We protect those who can't protect themselves. It's not just a rule. It's who we are. For the first time, the Vraxian's posture showed something that might have been respect. Mercer moved quickly through the corridors of Proxima Station, accompanied by Private Olivia West and 2 Meridon engineers. The Meridons floated beside them like glowing blue clouds contained in transparent environmental suits. Their voices came through translators as soft musical tones. The nursery chambers require specific atmospheric conditions, one Meridon explained. Our juveniles cannot survive in standard oxygen environments. How many juveniles are we talking about? Mercer asked as they hurried forward. 23, the other Meridon responded. They are very young, still in their first phase. West checked her equipment. She carried specialized breathing gear and a portable power unit. Will they understand what's happening? Will they be afraid? The first Meridon's glow pulsed gently. They will sense danger, yes, but they will respond to calm direction. They reached a sealed door marked with alien symbols. Warning lights flashed above it. One of the Meridons pressed its misty appendage against a control panel, and the door slid open with a harsh grinding sound. Beyond the door, the damage was immediately visible. The ceiling had partially collapsed, and environmental systems sparked dangerously. In the center of the room, a large transparent chamber contained swirling cloudlets in soft pastel colors, the Meridon juveniles. Mercer assessed the situation quickly. The life support for their chamber is failing. We need to transfer them to portable containment units. That is not possible, one Meridon said. The chamber cannot be opened safely. It would disperse them into the station atmosphere. Mercer looked at the damaged systems. Then we need to power their chamber directly and move the whole thing. West nodded. The portable unit I brought might work, but it won't last long, maybe 20 minutes. That's enough time to get them to the evacuation ships, Mercer decided. Let's do it. While West and the Meridon engineers worked to connect the portable power unit, Mercer studied the juvenile clouds. They had gathered together in one corner of their chamber, pulsing with what seemed like anxiety. He placed his hand against the transparent wall. To his surprise, the small clouds drifted toward his hand, their colors shifting to curious yellows and greens. They sense your electromagnetic field, one Meridon explained. They find it interesting, Mercer smiled. Tell them we're here to help. Tell them they're going to be okay. The Meridon emitted a series of musical tones into the chamber. The juvenile clouds responded by spreading out more calmly. Ready, Sergeant, West announced. The chamber is on portable power, but these ceiling supports won't hold much longer. Mercer examined the chamber's base. It had wheels, but they were locked in place. We need to release these locks and create a path to roll this thing out of here. As if on cue, part of the ceiling collapsed with a thunderous crash. West shielded her face from debris. The Meridon juveniles swirled in panic. "No time for finesse," Mercer said. He grabbed a piece of metal debris and jammed it under the chamber's base, creating leverage. "Everyone push on my count. 1, 2, 3. Their combined strength broke the locking mechanisms. The chamber lurched forward, nearly tipping before Mercer stabilized it. "Careful. We need to keep it level." Navigating the damaged section proved difficult. Fallen debris blocked their path, and the chamber was heavier than Mercer had anticipated. Sweat soaked his uniform as they pushed the unwieldy container through narrow passages. "Station update," West reported, checking her communication device. "Impact in 40 minutes. Evacuation is 80% complete." They reached another blocked corridor. The only way forward would require lifting the chamber over a pile of debris. "This isn't going to work," Mercer said, thinking quickly. "We need another route." One of the Meridon engineers pulsed brightly. "There is a service passage 2 sections back. It is small, but it might accommodate the chamber." Mercer nodded. "Lead the way." The service passage was indeed small, barely wide enough for the chamber. They had to turn it sideways and push it inch by inch through the narrow space. Mercer's muscles burned with the effort, but he pushed harder. Inside the chamber, the juvenile Meridons had formed a tight cluster in the center, their colors now a uniform worried purple. "We're almost there," Mercer told them, though he knew they couldn't understand his words. "Just hang on." When they finally emerged from the service passage, they found themselves in a main corridor where evacuation was still in progress. Aliens of various species moved aside, staring at the unusual procession. West checked the power unit. "We're down to 12 minutes of power for the chamber. The Meridon evacuation point is in docking bay 12, one of the engineers said. "It is still far." Mercer made a quick decision. New plan. "West, contact the horizon. Have them send a shuttle to our position. We'll do the transfer outside." West nodded and made the call. Mercer turned to the aliens moving through the corridor. "We need help moving this chamber. Anyone who can assist, please help us." To his surprise, several aliens stepped forward. A group of tall, willowy beings with 4 arms, some of the insectoid Vraxians, and even a few massive creatures that resembled bears with scales. Together, they lifted the chamber, making progress much faster. As they moved, Mercer noticed something unexpected. The different species were communicating with each other, coordinating their efforts without any official protocol. They were adapting, improvising, something the Confederation had claimed they couldn't do. They reached an airlock just as a shuttle from the USS Horizon arrived outside. Through the viewport, Mercer could see Lieutenant Wright piloting the craft. "We need to get this chamber onto that shuttle," Mercer announced. "The juveniles need specific atmospheric conditions, so we'll need to be careful with the transfer." The airlock was another challenge. It wasn't designed for something as large as the juvenile chamber. The aliens worked together, carefully maneuvering the precious cargo. "Power at 5 minutes," West warned. Once through the airlock, they secured the chamber to the shuttle's external docking clamps. Wright's voice came through the comm system. "I've got them, Sergeant. The shuttle's systems can maintain their environment. We'll get them to their evacuation ship." Mercer felt a wave of relief. "Good work, Lieutenant. Get them to safety." As the shuttle departed, Mercer turned to West. "Let's get back to the command center. We're not done yet." When they arrived, they found the command center transformed. The rigid separation between species had dissolved. Aliens worked side by side, focusing on the evacuation rather than protocols. Captain Rivera stood with Ambassador Donovan and the High Minister, reviewing evacuation numbers. "Sergeant," Rivera called when he spotted Mercer. "Report." "Meridon, juveniles are safe, sir. Lieutenant Wright is transporting them directly to their ship." High Minister Zigtal approached Mercer. The Vraxian's posture was different now, less rigid, more open. "You risked your life for children not of your species." "Why?" Mercer met the alien's compound eyes. "Because it was the right thing to do. Some rules don't need to be written down. They're just understood." The Tellurian joined them, its crystalline form catching the light. "Perhaps we have much to learn from humans after all." Adaptability is not the weakness we perceived it to be. Evacuation update, announced one of the station officers. 97% complete. All remaining personnel are essential crew or evacuation coordinators. Captain Rivera nodded. It's time for us to leave as well. The station will be hit in less than 15 minutes. The evacuation shuttle shuddered as it departed from Proxima Station. Mercer looked out the viewport at the massive structure that had been his home for the past 3 weeks. Soon it would be nothing but debris. The thought made him unexpectedly sad. Ambassador Donovan sat beside him, watching the same view. You did good work today, Sergeant. Mercer shrugged. Just doing my job, ma'am. Your job was security detail, not rescuing alien children or redesigning evacuation protocols, Donovan said with a small smile. You went far beyond your job description. Trust the shuttle was crowded with a mix of humans and aliens, the last to leave the station. Most were quiet, processing the day's events. In one corner, High Minister Zikatal conferred with other Vraxian officials, their mandibles moving in rapid, silent communication. Captain Rivera's voice came over the comm system. All personnel, prepare for docking with USS Horizon in 3 minutes. Through the viewport, Mercer could see their ship growing larger. The Horizon wasn't the biggest or newest vessel in Earth's fleet, but right now it looked like the most beautiful sight in the galaxy. Beyond it, dozens of alien ships hovered, the evacuation fleet. The shuttle docked with a gentle thump. As they disembarked, Mercer was surprised to find Lieutenant Wright waiting for them. The Meridan juveniles are safe, she reported before Mercer could ask. Their ship has special facilities for them. Their elders asked me to convey their gratitude. Mercer nodded, relieved. What's our status? All evacuees accounted for, Wright said. We're preparing to move to a safe distance before impact. Captain Rivera joined them on the bridge as they took their positions. The view screen showed Proxima Station, now abandoned, with the asteroid approaching rapidly. Impact in 2 minutes, announced the tactical officer. High Minister Ziktal and the Tellurian delegate entered the bridge. Captain Rivera nodded to them. Ministers, I'm sorry about your station. The Tellurian's crystalline form shimmered. Structures can be rebuilt. Lives cannot be replaced. Thanks to your crew, particularly Sergeant Mercer, no lives were lost today. Ziktal stepped forward. I must acknowledge that I misjudged humans. Your methods are unorthodox but effective. Impact in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. All eyes turned to the view screen. The asteroid, a massive chunk of rock and ice, collided with Proxima Station in a silent explosion of light and debris. The station broke apart, pieces scattering into space. Mercer felt a pang of loss, even though he had only known the station briefly. Begin damage assessment, Rivera ordered. Coordinate with the Confederation fleet to ensure all debris is tracked. As the bridge crew went to work, Ambassador Donovan turned to the alien delegates. What happens now? Will the Confederation still consider Earth's membership? The Tellurian and Vraxian exchanged looks. The circumstances have changed, the Tellurian said carefully. Today's events require consideration. Mercer understood what wasn't being said. The crisis had revealed flaws in the Confederation's approach, flaws they weren't ready to openly acknowledge. Perhaps, Ziktal suggested, we could continue discussions aboard your vessel while a new meeting place is arranged. Rivera nodded. The Horizon is at your disposal, ministers. The aliens departed, leaving the humans alone on the bridge. Donovan sighed heavily. Well, that wasn't a no. Progress, I suppose. Mercer remained silent. He was a Marine, not a diplomat. His job was done. The emergency was over. Lives were saved. The political aftermath wasn't his concern. Over the next few days, a curious thing happened. Aliens began approaching Mercer with questions, not just about the evacuation, but about human protocols, human training, human adaptability. They seemed genuinely interested in understanding how Marines operated. On the 4th day after the station's destruction, Private West found Mercer in the ship's mess hall. Sergeant, you're needed in Conference Room 3. What's happening? Mercer asked, setting aside his coffee. West grinned. You'll see. When Mercer entered the conference room, he found Captain Rivera, Ambassador Donovan, and representatives from all 17 Confederation species. He stopped short, surprised by the gathering. Staff Sergeant Mercer, Rivera said formally. The Confederation Council has requested your presence. Mercer stood at attention. Sir. A new alien stepped forward, one Mercer hadn't seen before. It was tall, with golden skin that seemed to glow from within. I am Supreme Counselor Alara of the Galactic Confederation, it said in a melodic voice. We have been discussing the events at Proxima Station. Mercer remained silent, waiting. Our protocols have served us for 3,000 years, Alara continued. In that time, we have forgotten something important, the purpose behind those protocols. You reminded us of that purpose. Ambassador Donovan was smiling now. Rivera looked pleased as well. The Council has voted, Alara announced. Earth will be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Confederation. Mercer blinked in surprise. This was what they had been working toward, but he hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. Additionally, Alara continued, we wish to establish a new training program, a joint effort between Confederation security forces and Earth's Marines. We believe we have much to learn from each other. Now Mercer understood why he had been called. This wasn't just about diplomacy anymore. This was about building something new. We would like you to lead this program, Sergeant Mercer, Alara said, to teach our people what you showed us at Proxima Station, how to balance rules with adaptability. Mercer looked at Rivera, who nodded slightly. I would be honored, Mercer said carefully, but I'm just one Marine. The lessons I applied weren't mine alone, they belong to the entire Corps. Perhaps, Zikatal said, stepping forward, but you were the one who demonstrated them when it mattered most. The Tellurian joined them. You humans have a saying, do you not? Actions speak louder than words. Your actions at Proxima Station spoke volumes. Mercer stood a little straighter. If the Marine Corps and Earth government approve, I'll do my best. Ambassador Donovan beamed. I think we can arrange that, Sergeant. As the meeting continued around him, Mercer reflected on the strange turn of events. He had never expected to become a diplomat or a teacher to alien species. He was just a Marine who did what was necessary when people needed help. There is one question I must ask, Alara said, interrupting Mercer's thoughts. During the crisis, you told Minister Zakatal that some rules don't need to be written down. What did you mean by this? Mercer considered his answer carefully. There are rules we follow because someone wrote them in a manual. Then there are rules we follow because they're part of who we are. Marines protect those who can't protect themselves. We adapt to overcome challenges. We put the mission and our people before ourselves. These aren't protocols, they're principles. Ilara's golden skin glowed brighter. Principles. Yes, perhaps that is what the Confederation has forgotten. We have preserved our rules while losing sight of the principles behind them. 6 months had passed since the destruction of Proxima Station. Mercer stood in the observation deck of the New Earth Embassy, a gleaming structure on the Confederation capital world of Harmonium. Through the massive windows he could see the sprawling alien city below, a marvel of architecture unlike anything on Earth. Admiring the view, Sergeant? Ambassador Donovan asked as she joined him. Just thinking about how much has changed, ma'am, Mercer replied, and it had changed dramatically. Earth was now a provisional member of the Galactic Confederation, with full membership expected within 2 years. Human ships traveled freely through Confederation space. Trade agreements had been signed, cultural exchanges were flourishing, and at the center of it all was the Joint Adaptive Response Program, JARP for short, led by Staff Sergeant John Mercer. The first graduation ceremony is today, Donovan said. How are you feeling about it? Mercer smiled slightly. Nervous, proud. Still not sure how I ended up here. You ended up here by being exactly what we needed when it mattered most, Donovan said. You showed the Confederation something they'd forgotten, that rules serve a purpose beyond themselves. A chime sounded, indicating it was time for the ceremony. Mercer straightened his dress uniform and followed Donovan to the large amphitheater, where the event would take place. The room was filled with aliens from across the Confederation, along with human diplomats and military personnel. At the front sat the first graduating class of JARP, 50 beings from 20 species, including 10 humans from various Earth military branches. Captain Rivera, now Admiral Rivera, was present, along with High Minister Zictal and Supreme Counselor Ilara. Even Lieutenant Wright had come, though she was now Chief Engineer Wright on the USS Peacekeeper. Admiral Rivera stepped to the podium. 6 months ago, a crisis brought us together in unexpected ways. Today, we celebrate the first fruits of that partnership. He spoke briefly about the importance of the program before introducing Mercer. As Mercer took the podium, he looked out at the diverse faces watching him. Some had compound eyes. Others had no visible eyes at all. Some breathed oxygen, others methane or more exotic gases. Yet all had come together with a common purpose. When I first met representatives of the Confederation, Mercer began, they told me humans were too unpredictable, too chaotic, too adaptive. They said these were weaknesses. Today we recognize them as strengths. He gestured to the graduates. This program doesn't teach anyone to abandon rules. Rules matter. Structure matters. What we've learned together is when to adapt those rules to serve their higher purpose. Mercer saw the Meridon delegate in the audience, its misty form glowing with soft blue light. Beside it were several smaller clouds, the juveniles he had helped rescue, now grown larger. The graduates before you have completed the most rigorous training program ever created by multiple species working together, Mercer continued. They have learned from each other's strengths. The humans have gained appreciation for the structure and precision the Confederation values. The Confederation members have embraced human adaptability and creative problem solving. One by one, the graduates came forward to receive their insignia, a unique symbol designed to represent the merging of structure and adaptability. Mercer felt a surge of pride as each name was called. After the ceremony, there was a reception where humans and aliens mingled freely. Mercer found himself approached by High Minister Zictal, whose mandibles clicked in what Mercer now recognized as a greeting. "You have accomplished something remarkable, Sergeant Mercer," the Vraxian said. "When we first met, I believed humans too unpredictable to join our community. I now see that predictability is not always a virtue. And I've learned that structure has its place," Mercer admitted. "The Corps has always valued discipline. What your people have shown us is how to maintain that discipline across vast distances and multiple species." Supreme Counselor Ilara joined them, her golden skin glowing warmly. "The Confederation has existed for 3,000 years, but we have grown more in the past 6 months than in the previous 3 centuries. Your species has challenged us to examine our foundations." One of the graduates approached, a young Vraxian named Tikzar. Mercer had worked closely with him during training, impressed by his willingness to question traditional Vraxian approaches. "Sergeant," Takazar said, mandibles clicking respectfully, "I wanted to thank you before I depart for my assignment." "Where are you headed?" Mercer asked. "The outer colonies," Tikzar replied. "There have been reports of unstable asteroid fields threatening settlement worlds. The Council thought a JARP graduate might be useful there." Mercer nodded, recognizing the significance. Before the program, the Confederation would have sent specialists with specific protocols for such a situation. Now they were sending someone trained to adapt. Later, Mercer found himself alone with Admiral Rivera on a balcony overlooking the city. "You know," Rivera said, "when we set out on this mission, I thought we'd be lucky if the Confederation just agreed to let us join. I never imagined we'd end up changing them." "I'm not sure we changed them, sir," Mercer said thoughtfully. "I think we just reminded them of something they'd forgotten. Every civilization needs both stability and adaptability to survive." Rivera smiled. "Either way, you've served Earth well, Sergeant. The Corps is promoting you to gunnery sergeant. By the way, effective immediately." Mercer blinked in surprise. "Thank you, sir." "Don't thank me. You earned it." Rivera looked out at the alien skyline. So what's next for Gunnery Sergeant Mercer? The program's established now. You could return to regular Marine duties if you wanted. Mercer considered the question. 6 months ago, he would have jumped at the chance to return to familiar territory. Now he wasn't so sure. I think I'd like to stay with the program, sir, he decided. We've made a good start, but there's still a lot more to do, a lot more to learn from each other. As the twin suns of Harmonium began to set, casting purple and gold light across the alien city, Mercer reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. He had never expected to be a diplomat or a teacher. He had just been a Marine doing his job when a crisis demanded action. In the end, that was what the Confederation had needed most to learn from humanity, not just how to bend rules in an emergency, but how to hold true to the principles that gave those rules meaning. As if reading his thoughts, Admiral Rivera said, "You know what the Tellurians are saying now? Humans don't just adapt to the universe. They teach the universe to adapt." Mercer smiled. Not bad for a species they thought was too unpredictable. In the distance, a ship was launching, one of the new joint-designed vessels crewed by both humans and Confederation species. Its lights traced a bright path into the darkening sky, heading toward distant stars. Not bad at all, Admiral Rivera agreed, watching the ship's ascent. Not bad at all,